Yo, what's going on, guys? And we got to do today the Oklahoma City Thunder, who they just got eliminated by the Dallas Mavericks. And I think it's definitely an interesting one because this team, I think the road to not fixing, but to contention, true contention. They're so young. They have an MVP candidate in Mr. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then you go ahead and you look, they have the 12th pick in the draft. And I'm sorry, but this is a team that they need to get another big with Chet Holmgren, either as a guy off the bench who can, come do big lineups, either as a 4 or a 5, or eventually start next to him. And I really think at 12 overall, you're either going to have a chance to get yourself a guy like Kyle Filipowski, who I think is perfect for next to Chet Holmgren, or an Yves Messi, or if you really want to, trade that pick back and get a Khalil Ware. I think those are 3 types of big men that they should go out and get, especially because they already have Jay Will off the bench, who's a perfect backup big. I don't think there's any need to go out and spend a bunch of money on a big. If you can, go out into free agency and get a big like a Jonas Valanciunas for cheap, or whoever else is going to be available that might be, a cheap backup big while one of these, whoever you draft develops if you don't feel confident. But I think they could look out and instead of spending their cap space that they have in free agency on a front court player, they can just address that in the draft with the 12th pick. So the rest of the stuff, Gordon Hayward's gone, Bismack Biyombo's gone. Maybe they bring back Mike Muscala because it seems like they really like his leadership. Isaiah Joe has a team option, and so does Aaron Wiggins and Lindy Waters. Now the thing is, if you don't know this, Aaron Wiggins, Lindy Waters, and Isaiah Joe, if they were to decline their team options, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they are able to go out and they re-sign those guys as restricted free agents instead of waiting till next year when they're unrestricted free agents, similar to how Herb Jones was with the Pelicans last offseason. So if they were wanting to extend him, I think those are guys that, can be made into restricted free agents if they were. Okay, so Isaiah Joe, my apology, is not under that. So Isaiah Joe, they would accept the team options, but Lindy Waters and Aaron Wiggins are 2 guys that they could decline, and then they become restricted free agents, and then they bring them back on long-term extensions. And if they were to do that, expect Kenrich Williams to be traded. I think the 3 dudes they expect to be traded just because they need to figure out the roster is Kenrich Williams because Aaron Wiggins took his job, Ousmane Dieng because he might not fit the timeline of this team, and then Josh Giddy. And I've heard from sources that they've heard that the Spurs are the dark horse favorites to get him because they love the Spurs like the idea of Devin Vassell next to Josh Giddy, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama. And they feel that because Josh Giddy is beloved by Sam Presti. Sam Presti loves Josh Giddy. And Mark Daigneault doesn't have a problem with Josh Giddy, but the problem he has with Josh Giddy is that he doesn't fit what Mark Daigneault wants to do. And that's no offense to Josh Giddy. That's just Mark Daigneault's style of play and scheme is not the best situation for Josh Giddy, even though the front office loves him. And sometimes, even though the front office loves somebody, it doesn't work with the coach that the front office loves. So at that point, a team like the Spurs that need a point guard might see him as a cheap option that they could go trade for him, signing him to an extension now, and then you do that. So expect Josh to be on his way out. For me, I think when you look at the rest of this team has been patient. Also, Olivier Sarr and Keontae Johnson are both restricted free agents. I expect them to come back. So, including the lottery pick from Houston, Oklahoma City has $107.8 million in salary, a projected $33 million in room. The minimum salary rule requires that OKC spends $126.9 by the first day of free agency. That means the team options of Aaron Wiggins, Lindy Waters, and Isaiah Joe more than likely will be exercised, but they could not. And I think when you look at this, the 5 players on the rosters who signed as free agents, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Lindy Waters, Bismack Biyombo, Mike Muscala, are no more than $2 million at the time they signed. And they've been able to, do these like low risk free agent signings, which maybe they continue. But for one, like I said, Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins could get their contracts declined and extended on bigger deals. While we talked about Josh Giddy already, I think Josh Giddy is somebody they could use to go out and get that rebounding rim protector that next to Chet Holmgren that we talked about. And they also allow the third most second chance points. So they need a big. And that's why we talked about the Kyle Filipowski, getting an actual big out there. So for me, I think the other thing is, who can they, free agency wise, if they were to go out there, I think the Nick Claxton, Isaiah Hartensteins, and the Jonas Valanciunas. I mean, maybe Jonas might be cheap enough. I think Jonas is the best. Jonas or Andre Drummond are two dudes that I think they really could think about. I think another guy that they could think about bringing back is Dario Saric. He was good for them. I talked about this earlier. I would not be surprised if they give a guy like Miles Bridges a Kevin Porter Jr. deal, where there's guarantee dates and there's protective language inside the contract, so that if he does have any of the off the court issues, he would be, they would be able to get off his contract relatively easy without any consequences. Now, this is a guy that I think would fit perfect next to this team. Imagine J-Dub, Shea, and Miles Bridges, and then you draft like a Kyle Filipowski, or you bring in somebody else like a Jonas Valanciunas. Chet plays the 4 maybe, and you have Jonas starting at center and Jay Will off the bench and Miles Bridges as your 3. He's a strong swingman who can play the 2, the 3, or the floor. He thrives in transition. He's a great slasher. He's developed a solid outside shot. Shot 35% this year on 46% from the field, 21.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists per game. And I know he's a clutch guy, but he's definitely someone interesting. Outside of that, I mean, bringing in guys like Kyle Anderson could help them. But the trade market, should they go out and get a Brandon Ingram? Should they go out and get a Jeremy Grant? Should they go out and Chris Middleton? Or I don't really think there's anyone of reason. Maybe a Bruce Brown. I think Bruce Brown really could help this team. Now, again, going back to Miles Bridges, maybe they do a sign and trade there and they send them Ousmane Dieng and Kenrich Williams in a package right there for Miles Bridges, which would be good for them. And then you have to do like a 4-year, $120 million deal with protective languages. That's a better team already right there. And I think doing a low risk, high upside deal like that with Miles Bridges might work out better than going after a guy like a Jeremy Grant, who they had in the past, going after a guy like Chris Middleton, who might be washed, going after a Brandon Ingram, who's on an expiring contract and might not really fit with this team. So outside of that, I think finding a true backup point guard would be huge. You go back to, I think, getting a Malcolm Brogdon. I know Malcolm Brogdon has been called the locker room lawyer, kind of argumentative, starts to stir up stuff, and he can be very, persuasive, influential on players, and which can create divides in the locker room, as he's been reported. I mean, but if you do believe he's an expiring contract, he might play up to his ability. He could be someone that, you really like on your team. Again, that's, probably depending on the party, but I think he's definitely someone to keep an eye out on. I look around the league. You want to think maybe a DeAndre Hunter, because he's a toolsy, kind of fits that Swiss Army knife mold that they've been coveting. But it just, when you look at a team like this, you don't know really what Sam Presti's going to do, because they're not ones who've gone out and spent money like crazy, and they're not ones who've done anything wild. So I think they're in an almost unique position of having both an all-star short of his prime years, a near maximum cap space to be able to target another, and what figures to be a slowed market due to the loading up of salaries around the league over the past couple seasons. The Thunder are in the driving seat. So is there a chance for them to go out and get Paul George? I don't think so, but again, they are the dark horses to go out and shock the world to get themselves a guy like a Paul George, which I don't think anyone would have thought heading into the offseason. But, if they could get a guy, he's not as quite as explosive of an athlete when he was in his prime, but he's still a borderline all-NBA player who's still an all-star two-way wing with the ability to make very tough, difficult shots, attacking the basket, and he would be a third option on this team. You have your number one option in Shea. You have your number two option in J-Dub. So you just tell him he just needs to take the remaining shots. And I think Paul George can do that, in my opinion. But I think that's like where we're at as a team. And that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think of this? Is this just me? But I'm really curious. I think the Thunder are in a good position to be able to improve their team, and it's just a matter of time on how they're going to do it. So hit that like and subscribe button if you guys made it to the end of the video. It means the world to me. It really does. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace out.